Welcome to this Chemscape presentation on the hazards of hydrogen peroxide. Pure hydrogen peroxide is a crystalline solid at low temperatures, but is mostly used in liquid form. At room temperature, it appears as a colorless liquid with a sharp, distinctive odor. This compound is unstable and breaks down easily into water and oxygen when it's exposed to light or heat. Although hydrogen peroxide itself is not flammable, it is a strong oxidizing agent and can trigger spontaneous combustion when it is in contact with organic materials. Hydrogen peroxide is commonly sold in low concentrations, 3 to 9%, for first aid and as a bleaching agent for hair and fabrics. Even at these levels, it can irritate the eyes, skin, and mucous membranes. Solutions above 10% may cause skin burns, while ingestion can lead to gastrointestinal damage, bleeding, abdominal pain, and in severe cases, unconsciousness or death. In industry, hydrogen peroxide is used in high concentrations, over 35%, for bleaching textiles and paper. It is also used for making foam rubber and organic chemicals, preventing corrosion and scaling, and treating wastewater. At these levels, it becomes a highly aggressive oxidizer that can damage many materials, including human tissue. Inhalation of solutions stronger than 10% can severely irritate the lungs, cause fluid buildup, and may be fatal. Hydrogen peroxide can be toxic if ingested, inhaled, or is in contact with the skin or eyes. Hydrogen peroxide doesn't easily form vapors at room temperature, but when heated or misted, it can irritate the nose, throat, and lungs. Severe inhalation exposure may lead to bronchitis or fluid in the lungs, which can be life-threatening. Swallowing hydrogen peroxide can irritate the stomach and, in high concentrations, cause severe symptoms such as abdominal pain, foaming at the mouth, vomiting blood, bloating, and breathing difficulties. Ingesting industrial-strength solutions can quickly lead to shock, unconsciousness, or even death. Skin contact with diluted hydrogen peroxide can temporarily bleach the skin. At 35%, it may cause irritation, redness, and dermatitis, while concentrations above 50% can cause severe burns, blisters, ulcers, and permanent scarring. Work tasks and the operations of your job site determine how and where products containing hydrogen peroxide may be released, or if there's potential for inhalation, skin contact, or ingestion. Apply the hierarchy of controls when determining what controls to apply. All or just some of the approaches may be required to prevent or reduce worker exposure to hydrogen peroxide. An expert like an industrial hygienist may be required for assessment of exposures and control measures. Elimination and substitution are always the first consideration to prevent exposures. If hydrogen peroxide is a process additive, substitution for a less toxic chemical should be considered. If hydrogen peroxide is essential to the operation, there is limited ability to eliminate the hazard. Therefore, the focus must be on controlling the hazard. The main engineering control for hydrogen peroxide is containment. Hydrogen peroxide piping must have a high point vent or pressure safety valve, and piping and testing systems must be properly installed to prevent leaks. Air contaminants can be removed with mechanical or local exhaust ventilation close to the source of the vapor or mist. Natural ventilation is less effective. Additional controls can include process modifications, leak prevention, and secondary containment. Hydrogen peroxide must be stored correctly to prevent leaks, fire, and explosion. Key requirements include: keep in a cool, dry, well-ventilated area, away from flammable or combustible materials. Use vented containers made of non-reactive materials, for example, stainless steel, dark glass, or containers designed for hydrogen peroxide. Never confine hydrogen peroxide in unvented vessels or between closed valves, as decomposition can cause overpressure and bursting. Clearly label storage tanks with hydrogen peroxide, as well as fill lines, and display the NFPA placard. Dispose of unused product. Empty containers should be thoroughly rinsed with clean water before disposal. Personal protective equipment must be worn in cases where engineering control measures are not possible or do not adequately control your exposure. If there is a possibility for splashes or sprays, wear chemical safety goggles and a face shield to protect your eyes or face. A full-face respirator can also be used. Wear protective clothing, for example, gloves, coveralls, and rubber boots, when there is a risk of splashing or spraying. For concentrations above 35%, use a full chemical protective suit, for example, Tychem. Nitrile, butyl rubber, or neoprene gloves provide good resistance to hydrogen peroxide. Replace gloves if worn or degraded. If engineering controls and ventilation cannot keep exposure below allowable limits, use a NIOSH or MSHA approved respirator. For hydrogen peroxide with a concentration greater than 10%, use a half or full face respirator with organic vapor acid gas or multi-gas vapor cartridge. For hydrogen peroxide with a concentration greater than 35%, use a full face self-contained breathing apparatus or supplied air breathing apparatus with auxiliary escape bottle. A medical evaluation and fit test are required before using a respirator. Training should be provided for proper use, cleaning, maintenance, and storage. Report any health symptoms or damage on the respirator immediately. During some operations, decontamination may be required. Immediately remove contaminated clothing, wash or shower, and safely launder or dispose of clothing. Practice good work hygiene. If available, use designated space for removing contaminated clothing, washing and showering stations, supplies to decontaminate your gear and tools. Health monitoring helps detect early signs of exposure to prevent occupational illness. While not required for hydrogen peroxide, an annual medical assessment is recommended if you work with high-hazard substances. This concludes our presentation. If you have any concerns, please contact your health and safety representative.